This is my job, I think, this evening to give a little bit of a picture of what the schizophrenic kind of madness looks like. The patient lives at a level quite different from surroundings. He lives down inside. He feels isolated there because there's no understanding on the part of his world around for his experience. He has a fear of being overwhelmed by this inner life, but even more a panic at the isolation that he drops into. And this wave of panic sends him into an acute withdrawal. The objects around him lose their color, lose their separateness. They blend into a large indifference. He feels quite indifferent about the world that we live in, and he is located somewhere else. His emotions do not connect in the ordinary way with ordinary things, but his emotions are now concerned with his myth world, and that's his entire concern at the time. He's in a syndrome that can be described not in terms of Kreplinian diagnosis or in terms of clinical description, but in terms of the imagery that he's dropped into. He lives in a world of fragments of myth. They're broken, they come by as wisps of parcels of myth, like a kaleidoscope that's always revolving around a center, and if you tune in on this, you find yourself being able to put this picture together again in a rather consistent sort of way. His world is almost unrecognizable to us. He's at an axis which is the center of a world, something we don't know anything about, a cosmic axis in which powerful events are taking place. There's a death of his old self. He feels he's died on admission to the hospital usually, and that he's living in an afterlife state. He's experiencing a tremendous clash of world powers, powers of light and dark, order and chaos, good and evil, and he is at the center, and they're both closing in on him. He's thrown back in time to the creation of the cosmos, participates that in the world beginnings, and repeats step by step the evolution of creation. He's raised up into a position of supremacy in the world, either in rulership or spiritual leadership or some sort of very particular supreme role. Then, along with the idea of being married to some divine personage, he experiences a new birth or perhaps his own rebirth, and along with this, a wonderfully peaceful resolving of conflicts. He sees a world that's ordered symmetrically in 4 quadrants. These might be continents or political powers or races or creeds, whatever, but at least structured in this way around a cosmic center. And by this time, when he's resolving his conflict, he's stepped out of his central position as a normal ego, standing aside and seeing that this is an integration of his spiritual world. Now, is all that gibberish? Are they distortions? Are they primary process, so-called, an archaic mode, which comes up to the surface only when the ego abdicates? Is it his thinking gone berserk, in which it's nothing but distorted confusions? Is it of any use in a modern mind that this process should be going on? Well, we get a clue to it in the fact that this very process is about 5,000 years old. This is well known in archaic myth and ritual. It is the main outline of the chief religious rites of early societies, early urban societies, which also had a recreation of the world at the renewal of the year, the renewal of the kingship. And each element of this process finds its due place exactly as it does in these patients. So we can't brush it aside as being just a gobbledygook. Not only that, but the patients are strangely similar to one another, which must indicate that there is some process going on that has an outline and a meaning. Now, I would suggest that this process clearly emerges as the psyche's way of dissolving an old state of being, very creatively bringing to birth a new start. with a vision of a new self, with a new potential, with a vision of a new design of life, and a new meaning in one's world, if it goes right. Meanwhile, there's tremendous distress, tremendous cataclysmic, not only isolation, but a crashing down and falling apart of the world that one has known, which is very agonizing. So to come through to this fruitful outcome is a considerable work. It looks as though the real pathology is not then in the images, in the symbolic process. The madness is not a disorder at this level. It looks rather as if the disorder is in the constricted ego that has been educated out of this kind of contact, out of contact with the natural things of the psyche. The need of such a person is to learn to perceive the world symbolically, to experience it symbolically, and thus keep connected with his emotions and to live indeed in an impassioned world.